What's up everyone? It's Steven, back again with another DareToCapture video. Now before I even begin this video or tell you what it's about, I apologize for my hair. I know it's not looking the best right now, and if it looks worse as the video goes along, bear with me. I'm gonna have it fixed by the next video. Anyways, so this video, we're gonna talk about how you can hide your jump cuts. Now, before we can even talk about how you can hide your jump cuts, we need to talk about exactly what a jump cut is. Now, it's something in video editing where you put two clips together where the subject is possibly the same, but the camera position is different. Or you can have the same camera positioning, but the subject is in a different spot, and you put those two clips together. So there's no real transition, it's just a cut from one clip to the next. So, as you can see, I'm in my little office right now. But if I wanted to do a quick jump cut, all I have to do is snap my fingers. Now I'm outside talking to you. Now this is an extreme example of a jump cut, but I feel like using an extreme example is good sometimes because it helps get my point across. Now if I snap my fingers again, that's when you see that I'm back in the office. That's just a quick example of how a jump cut really works. Now I'm gonna start by saying I don't think that jump cuts are terrible, especially when you're on a platform like YouTube. In fact, I'd say jump cuts are more to be expected when you're on something like YouTube. However, some people don't love the idea of jump cuts, and there are gonna be times where you can't really use a jump cut because of the type of platform that you're using a video on. So for example, if you're creating an online course, you may not necessarily want to use jump cuts because when you use a jump cut, it kind of takes away from the professionalism that you're probably trying to display. Other times, using a jump cut is going to come down to a personal preference. So if you love to use a jump cut, go ahead and use it. And if you want to hide your jump cuts, keep watching this video because I'm going to give you 4 ways on how you can hide those jump cuts perfectly and seamlessly. Method number 1 for hiding your jump cuts is to reframe your footage. Now when you're reframing your footage, this is really something that can only be done during the editing process. Reframing your footage in the middle of shooting is never going to be an ideal situation, especially when you're filming by yourself. When you're reframing something, all you simply have to do is reposition the way your frame looks. It could be something as simple as a small zoom into your subject. You can move the frame to the left, you can move the frame to the right, you can move the frame up, you can move the frame down. All of these are reframing your footage. That slight change in positioning is going to easily allow you to hide your jump cuts. This is also why it's nice to film in 4K because you can really zoom in without losing any kind of quality to your footage. When you're filming in lower aspects, you're going to lose a bit of that quality when you're trying to zoom in on that footage. Be careful when you're filming in 4K though, because that footage is going to take up a lot more storage than it normally would if you were filming in something like 1080p. Moving on to my second method for hiding your jump cuts, and that's using B-roll. Now what exactly is B-roll? B-roll is footage that you lay on top of your current footage, and this footage is going to allow you to enhance anything that you're saying within the video. B-roll is going to be something that's there to always help enhance your video regardless of whether you're trying to hide a jump cut or not. Although it's a method that's extremely effective when it comes to hiding your jump cuts. I could easily cut away to some random B-roll shots like this, all while I'm still talking, and you won't even realize that I've had about 3 different jump cuts in this sequence. Hopefully that example was good enough to show you exactly how good B-roll is when it comes to hiding your jump cuts. Now, a rule that I like to try to follow when it comes to B-roll is you want to make sure that it's effective B-roll. There are just some people out there that will throw random B-roll and it's just something so that it breaks up the video so that you're not just staring at their face the whole time. However, for me, I like to always have B-roll that makes sense with the story that I'm trying to tell. So if I'm trying to tell you the best way to make a steak, but I'm showing you B-roll of me making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, that's not really going to make too much sense. However, it's still B-roll, so it does break up the video and it will hide the jump cuts. But in the end, it's probably going to confuse the audience because why would they be seeing a peanut butter and jelly sandwich when they're expecting to see a perfectly cooked steak? So have effective B-roll. Again, that's just one of my tips when it comes to using B-roll. And you'll be able to hide your jump cuts seamlessly without anybody ever noticing that there was a jump cut to begin with. Now my third method to hiding jump cuts is to use a morph. A morph is something that a lot of editing softwares have. It's a type of transition that puts 2 clips together as if they were one. So it does exactly what its name suggests. It morphs the end of one clip to the beginning of another clip. When it's done to perfection, you're not even gonna notice the morph. However, there are gonna be times when a morph is very noticeable. So for example, if I'm talking over here for a little bit, then I wanna move over here, the morph is very noticeable. But if I stay here and I use a morph, you're not even gonna be able to tell that there was a morph even used. Now using morphs are great, but for the most part you're not always gonna have a perfect morph. Now it's very easy to go a bit morph crazy. If you look at some of my first YouTube videos, you probably noticed that all I used were morphs. There comes a point where it just gets to be too much. You need to try and tone it back on the morphs a little bit if you can. Don't overuse them because you're just gonna probably distract the audience in the end. And when you distract your audience, they become a little disinterested in what you're trying to say, and the point you're trying to get across doesn't come across. So personally, I think I'm gonna stay away from morphs from now on. I went a little morph crazy, a little morph happy in my beginning videos, but from now on, jump cuts are probably gonna be more of my personal preference. But who knows, things could change, my style could change, and the next thing you know, I'm using morphs and jump cuts and all kinds of stuff within my videos. But when it comes to using a morph, again, this is gonna be something that's personal preference. Don't become too morph happy in your videos because again, it's gonna distract the audience and you wanna keep your audience engaged for as long as you can during your videos. Now my fourth and last method on how to hide jump cuts is to use a second camera. When you have the luxury of using a 2-camera setup, you're probably gonna have a video that's almost as smooth as ever. As long as the camera is set up at least 30 degrees from your first camera, you're gonna be fine. Any angle that's less than 30 degrees, you're gonna have something that looks too similar to the first camera, and that's gonna throw things off a little bit because it's only a slight change other than a more drastic change where it's an obvious second camera being used. When you have a second camera, you're not even gonna be able to notice the fact that there probably was a lot of pauses in your recording. You're not gonna have any complaints about a jump cut having too much strain on the audience's eyes either. Because let's be real, sometimes jump cuts can be very harsh and that could really take away from the points that you're trying to make sometimes. Now in this part of the video, you see me switching between 2 cameras, and there's no way for you to tell exactly how many times I messed up during this part of the video. Everything during this part of the video has been very smooth because of the 2-camera setup. This part of the setup is gonna keep your audience engaged because everything is gonna be as smooth as possible. When you edit everything correctly with the 2-camera setup, there's not gonna be any type of distractions during the whole video. And with minimal distractions in your video, your audience is gonna stay as engaged as they possibly can throughout your entire video. Now using jump cuts is gonna be something that isn't necessarily a bad thing when it comes to platforms like YouTube, especially when you're somebody like me that is in front of the camera for a vast majority of the video. You gotta remember that with situations like this, jump cuts are gonna be expected. However, I understand not everyone is gonna be in love with a jump cut. So because of that, using the 4 methods that I mentioned in this video are gonna help you tremendously. Those methods are gonna keep your videos running smoothly and seamlessly, and when you edit them correctly, nobody's ever gonna be able to tell that you might have had 30 minutes of footage compressed into just 10 minutes. So if you can think of any other methods that you can use to really hide a jump cut, leave a comment below. Also, let me know which one of these 4 methods is probably gonna be your favorite one to use to hide a jump cut. And because you made it this far in the video, do me a favor and hit that like button. Because if you made it this far, I'm just gonna assume that you enjoyed watching. And since you're already clicking things on the screen, you might as well click that subscribe button if you haven't already. And on that note, I'm Steven. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.